Hello, everyone. We are having our next webinar on circular economy. And this time we will have a talk with Andreas from Circonnact. I'm very pleased to have Andreas with you, but I have also my co-moderator, Hannah Bright, with me. Hannah, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm here today to help you out with any questions. I'm going to be moderating online. So if you have any questions, just feel free to post them into the comment section and I'm going to answer them for you.
Thank you very much. We are currently having a Erasmus Plus project, and we are trying to influence young entrepreneurs with ideas how to be active in the circular economy and how to design things in an eco-friendly way. In this episode, we will be talking more about the process of eco-design. It's more about designing a service and being creative and bring stakeholders and different actors together in the field of circular economy. Therefore, we invited today Andreas Ellenberger from Circonnact. Hello, Andreas. Where are you joining us from?
Hi, Bahano. I'm joining you from Vienna, beautiful city of Vienna.
Beautiful. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. It is great that you accepted our invitation. Would you like to explain us a bit what is Circonnact? What's your mission, or what kind of activities do you do within the circular economy field?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. So maybe if I can share my screen, then I can also lead you through a bit about the ideas, and starting with who am I, what's Circonnact, and what's our ambition.
Perfect,
then
thank you.
Looking a bit into circular economy also. So you should see my screen now. So I titled the session of today as Bringing Circular Economy to Life, because that's what our ambition is. So at Circonnact, and I'll explain a bit later where the word comes from. So at Circonnact, it's our focus really to look at, there are so many circular economy solutions already in the world. And we don't so much have a problem of finding solutions for circular economy. I think we have rather a problem of applying these solutions throughout the world. And that starts in Vienna, but it's all over the world. So also to be aware what circular solutions there are, because a lot of people, they don't know that they are working in circular economy, even though they are. So let me have a look at what I have planned or what I've brought today. So to make it simple, I am looking at three aspects. So first of all, of course, who am I? And what am I doing with Circonnact? What are we doing? Why do we think that a regenerative circular economy is the solution? Question is, solution for what? And what is needed to design in a regenerative way? So that's also looking at the process, but quite a lot looking at the mindset behind. So where do I come from? Basically, I come from Germany. I grew up on a farm, on a small farm in the middle of Germany, in the middle of nowhere. And I wrote my first 20 years were from a farm to a plastics producer, which sounds a bit strange, but that's how it is, because I grew up on the farm. And then I did my apprenticeship at a plastics producing company nearby. And that was the first time, well, the second time when I was related to waste, because at our farm or at our place at home, basically there was no waste almost. We were using everything which was on the field was used for the cows. Even the food we left over was used for our pigs. And so it was kind of normal to also work together, share things with the neighbors and use things up, basically. And then my apprenticeship was at the plastics producer, where we were really finding solutions which were great for all the different ways you could have. So kind of when you wanted to paint your car and don't want anything to be dirty afterwards, and you could use a plastic and you could use it for all the different things. But I also got to know that it's quite good that you can recycle plastic very easily. And we did some waste packages. So also from plastics, we also did some furniture for the garden, which was of course downsizing. So that's a bit my background. I then had a professional career after that, studied business administration. After that, became a project manager and consultant at PricewaterhouseCoopers, an international consulting company. Then I worked some years as a freelance project manager and working in projects and programs, really to understand and bring solutions to life. That was already there in my beginning of my career. So kind of working in projects, bringing people together, organizing the work and helping them achieve results which are impactful. I worked some years as an IT manager on a corporate level, which was also quite a good experience to, it was an international role. So it was a quite good experience to see how other cultures were behaving and the cultures were just in Europe. So like Spanish people and English people, quite different and very insightful. And since 2009, I became a trainer and consultant for project management, primarily bringing sustainable projects to life, also developing solutions and governance structures on how projects can be run. And in parallel to that, I was always looking to do some voluntary activities and developing myself. So it was about personal development was always very important for me, and I wanted to give back. I wanted to be part of something. So main things were I was working in or was doing projects, trainings for Junior Chamber International, for empowering young people. That was when I was a bit younger. Still, I was becoming a trainer. I developed my training skills there in a good environment, an environment where I could try out things. We organized conferences which were carbon neutral, so the sustainability topic came already up there, and I did trainings on that. I was also leading the Cradle to Cradle NGO in Frankfurt at that time. I was a trainer for Cradle to Cradle, led the Circular Economy Club in Vienna, and I'm a member of Economy for the Common Good, where I'm also a consultant. So it's kind of emerging into my business life, and that's a bit how it all got together at Circonnact, because Circonnact on the one hand is an organization which brings project management, training, consulting, so everything I gathered over the years to promote circular economy solutions. On the other hand, it also has always the perspective of we want to do something good. So we are a non-for-profit organization, and we don't want to do a circular economy for the sake of putting things into loops, but we want to do a circular economy for the sake of creating a better life for everyone. So what's our purpose at Circonnact? I'll get to that, or if you have any questions, Banu or Anna, just.
I wanted to ask a bit about, you said a better life for everyone, and it's also one of Wonderland's aim to create places, cities, architecture, built environment, and processes for everyone. And I wanted to know if you have specific experience with certain groups. I assume it's about people, but it could be also animals, since you have been growing up in a farm. So I wanted to understand what you mean with everyone.
Yeah, everyone's actually everyone, because very often when we look at the economy, we look at the people who are the ones working in leadership positions. But when I was working, for me, it was the same important to talk to every person at every level of the organization in the same way, to respect what they do and to respect that they're everyone is contributing to their best way. And that for me means everyone, so that basically everyone can feel valued, because that's something I think which is for me a key element of circular economy. Also, it's about caring, it's about valuing things as well as people, as well as relations, and we forget that so often. So we really very often focus on materials or the materiality of stuff, but we forget that the most important thing in our life is about the people who are around us, the nature. I love nature, I love being in nature, I love being with people, I love the two things separate and together. So and I think that's something we should keep in mind, that the economy is an enabler that we can live related to people and to nature. And it's not the most important thing in our lives to be a worker.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much, Andreas. Thank you for explaining and bringing it in words and summarizing. I think I totally agree. Also with architecture, with design, what urban planning, whatever we do, in the end, we do it for living beings and for the animals as well, and for people. And I think it's yeah, it's focusing on what we should have always in our mind, that all economy and creation should be benefiting us as human beings, as beings in general. Thank you. Sorry, you can connect. You can continue with the Circonnact path, and if I have a question, I will interrupt you again.
And you will see there is yeah, some things are repeating when I'm talking about Circonnact, because that's what was when we founded it together with Vanessa, my co-founder and colleague. We noticed we share the same understanding of how circular economy should be. So we met actually in the circular, being both organizers for the Circular Economy Club in Vienna, when we were organizing also workshops and speeches with the city, with the municipality, and with a lot of people in the city to see how can we make Vienna more circular. And we said, yeah, what do we really want? We want a world full of life. We want that people can thrive, that you go to work and you enjoy what you're doing. You do something meaningful for yourself. And that's yeah, something which we saw is not always happening. And we also said circular economy is the right thing to think, but we don't want to put the same exploitation which currently is running in linear processes into circular processes. So we want really to have the opportunity for everyone to thrive, to grow, to enjoy life, basically. And that's why we inspire and co-create solutions, because we look at the challenges with a circular, systemic and nature-inspired approach. Also, nature gives us a lot of ideas on how to do things better. So, because we think circularity opens possibility in every part. So from the business opportunities, it's a driver for innovation, but we can also have flourishing cities, and biodiversity should be a driver. We want to have healthy citizens, fruitful partnerships, and yeah, a good quality of life. And for companies, of course, when are people motivated? They are motivated if they do something which they are behind it, which makes some sense for them. And that's why we think that circular thinking can not just provide a new idea for business, but it can also provide an activation, an energizer for people in the organization to be more related to the work they are doing. So our vision is a world where people live connected with nature and thrive, supported by aligned systems. And we very much focus also on urban areas. I mean, I come from the countryside, so I know how nature looks like. I know how a cow looks like. And I think not everyone who grew up in the city is aware that there are no lilac, purple cows and stuff like that. So it's really important to have that connection and to see how we can connect that to urban living, because I also enjoy living in a city and having access to a lot of cultural opportunities and different people and different mindsets, which I didn't have so much when I was living on the countryside.
In terms of eco-friendliness, also the footprint of a city might be smaller if designed well and the life is close to circular, I would say. Because in Austria, I mean, this is something which I have to put in as an architect. In Austria, we have the wish to have single family houses with privately owned gardens and with cars and so on, which is even though rural, not close to the circular farmer life you were explaining in the beginning. It's very much exhausting our resources. So I think it's very good that you try to bring your ideas in the urban context, because there we need to have a smaller footprint, and I think it's a very rich environment to have a positive impact, which can be multiplied because so many people live in cities. Thank you.
Absolutely, and there are so great solutions. If you look at some, I've seen for Mexico, a way where they designed a city in the middle of the forest, which looked so beautiful and still had city, but wasn't putting in danger the nature. So that's quite cool. Also, we are involved in a project here in Vienna where an old farm is being rebuilt, and where the old farm buildings are being used to create a center of the city, or a small part of the city, with a lot of solutions for circular economy. So where circular producers are getting together and showing, like as a living lab, also showing really solutions for circularity, from food to repair centers and so on. So, but maybe that's too much at the beginning. So let's, I'll get to that a bit later. So what we at Circonnact do, we want to find solutions. We want to bring people together locally and globally. So we both are quite, even though I've been living only in Germany and Austria, we are quite international. I've been traveling a lot and seeing a lot of different countries, and I enjoy different cultures. So we want to, on the one hand, bring local solutions to life. On the other hand, connect people, because I think we can learn so much from other countries and other cities, as long as we not just blindly copy things, but if we kind of learn and customize it locally. So we want to design, we want to engage people, I'm a trainer, so I want to train people, I want to help people to understand it. And that's where Circonnact actually comes from. So on the one hand, circularity is our background. We want to bring people together. I think that's the strength we have, and that's also my strength from project management, to create a structure where people like to work with each other. And the action means we don't want to stand at the training and just tell people what they could do, but we want to be involved really in setting things up and co-creation. So that's Circonnact. Now comes a little bit longer part about circular economy. I'll keep it short because I think most of the people already have heard about circular economy. So we at Circonnact, we're also a member of an international network of circular economy consultants, designers, active people called Circulab. And Circulab is a French organization, and we have the nice drawings also from them. You will see a bit later.
Beautiful.
Because
and self-explaining.
Circularity should be beautiful. So we forget that, because sustainability, when I got to know sustainability, it was kind of oh, sustainability is hard because you can't do things, that's wrong what you're doing, that's not good, you should stop, you should use less. And that's not really motivating. That's not really something which brings people to go to action. It's more kind of, oh, with a bad conscience, like, yes, I need to do that. And that's a bit also currently the linear economy is kind of try to make better so that we use a bit less, we use it a bit more consciously, but still very often we take raw materials and put a lot of effort in to get the materials into products, and then after using it we throw them away, and that's just a shame, and we can't carry on doing that. For, let's say, when we really think about eco-design or circular design, we first need to understand the background. So you need to understand really what's behind it. So which materials are we talking about? Are these materials which are made for a biological cycle or for a technical cycle? And for products which are being consumed, they should be for the biological cycle, which means they are biodegradable, they can go back to nature, and they become a nutrient later on in nature. So basically, like a tree which is growing, and you should use basically the wood from the tree as long as a new tree can grow up. So then it wouldn't be wasted. That's the idea. And the washing machine here, actually in the use phase, is more that you need to think about every aspect in the use phase. So not that you should have a washing machine in the biological cycle. The technical cycle is basically products which are being used, which are not going into nature. Well, they shouldn't be wasted. So, and that's the washing machine example for you have. So basically a washing machine cannot, the parts of it not built in a way that they can be biodegrade. So then they should be reused, and that means that all these materials, which we of course build from natural resources, sometimes from minerals, are, once they have been performed or once they have been transformed into a material which is not good for nature, then it should be kept in the loop, but it should still be healthy material. That's an important factor. And one example, because you mentioned also to show some examples for circularity. So one example I like from Vienna is Unverschwendet, Unwasted, a company who used the surplus of food production to build jams, chutneys, and and it's really a great example to see how such a business can thrive, because they started by really doing that in their own kitchen, like doing some marmalades, some jams from stuff which some farmers had as a leftover, and in the meantime they have been growing, and they have partners who do that process, and they are focusing on developing new solutions. So it's also something where you're always finding new ways on how to improve your business. And of course, you can see here in the example, the glass shouldn't be on the biological cycle, but that should be on the technical cycle. And then on the technical cycle, you should think about, okay, glass and the tap, how can I do that? And then the print is another topic which should be then made for the biological cycle. Yes.
That's a very good example. They have great food, I have to say. So in a way, that means the biological part or the cycle is in this concept, it's reducing waste or have eliminating waste for farmers in the production. If I do understand it right.
Mainly for farmers, but it's of course also on all steps of the food chain, food value chain. There are.
And for the technical cycle, it would be that the glass and the cap could be reuse, so they take back probably the glasses, and so you have also in terms of services, because we mentioned in the beginning there are services, so because you have the connection that you have to bring back the glasses, you have also a connection to the organization. In this case, it's unverschwendet. So you have also in this way a kind of circularity, that you don't just buy and then throw away the leftover waste, but you bring it back and get it more or less refilled, right?
Exactly. And there's some things, of course, which need to be considered. It's like, how do you glue the information to the glass? Because a lot of glasses, when you put them in the dishwasher afterwards, you can still have the etiquette from the previous one, which means there is glue related to it, which is not good for nature, surely. So that's something which you need to, then looking step by step, you get to the solution. So how does it really need to look like, so that the users can really have the best experience. And as a user, I don't need glass, I need the stuff inside to eat. So that's always, when you are thinking about design, you should keep in mind. So basically, when we look at the circular perspective, it means we would still have some raw materials. So 100% circular, I think, is very hard. And also for, let's say, for food anyway, we will still have some material which has been growing, but also for steel or plastics, for example, you will always have a bit of virgin material, but we want to reduce that. And you can see here, let's say, the smaller the loops, the better it is. So the smaller the loops, the less effort you need to do. So reusing, like reselling, reusing is better than recycling, because recycling means you need to break the whole product down into its parts and then use it again. So that's something where for every circular, or for every product, for every solution, you would think about what's the easiest, and starting from the inner circle to the outer circles, what are different ways on how I can provide my service to the customers. And when we do workshops, for example, what we look at is we have these different business opportunities, and then we discuss with the customers, with the participants. So what's the best, what could be solutions for what you, or let's say for the way how you work with the needs of the people. And it's very important for them also to understand what is the user's needs, and go away from this thinking of a customer, but it's the user who really needs to be considered. And as a user, going back to my washing machine, I don't need 30 kilos of material. I need to get my clothes clean in the most economic way and in the most healthy way. And that's what you always should keep in mind. So what do the users need, and how can I do that? And to show some of the ideas here, I have some interesting companies which I like a lot. So also from, let's say, from their behavior. So there are good examples to see how it's being evolving. So a smaller company is Baude. It's a German company. They started with a green shape, so looking into the materials. How do I get the best materials? They know their suppliers to understand there are healthy materials. They look at how they manufacture it. They have social standards involved. So it was basically for them, this green shape was important, but as they are outdoor and not all the gear you need outdoor, you need all the time, they started with a rental service. So that was then a different way. And it's always the question, do I really need to sell my products, or would it be better to keep control of it so that I can see if something is broken, I can also fix it? And that's I think I like the headline, care and repair instead of throwing it away. So that's the mindset. So basically, we don't want to produce stuff to be thrown away. We want to have something for our customers, for them to make the best out of it. And that's why they offer repair. Of course, there are other, like Patagonia, like they do a similar way. So there are other companies. VD is a German company. And that's a smaller, let's say, SME, but also large companies are evolving. So Caterpillar are like, I don't have that so much insight of the company, but I like how they develop. They even bring on financing solutions because they found out that circular economy needs more finance. And yeah, they have rental equipment. They sell used equipment. They started in some companies, and for example, some companies in Africa where it's hard to bring the materials. I think it's not Caterpillar, it's Hitachi, but similar. They decided, I think in Zambia, that they wouldn't have any new parts to build the machines, but only used parts, and only parts which are already in the country. And it's all about valuing materials and products, like here. So they basically created a guideline for remanufacturing and rebuild, but the guideline for remanufacturing and rebuild is starting at the design for the engineers. So they have design guidelines so that basically the products are built to be repaired, are built to be remanufactured, are built to be rebuilt. So that means that you always keep in mind when you are designing something, what is happening afterwards? And how can the product or the parts be used afterwards? A nice example from Vienna, again, is the RUS, it's the social business. So it's the repair and service center. They started with washing machines. So they started with actually fixing washing machines or remanufacturing, refurbishing them. And then selling also machines, but also then they started to have product as a service. So they don't sell the machines anymore, but you can just buy for washing, and the machine is in your premises, and they ensure that it's upgraded. They give you information on how to use it in the best way. So it's their interest, and that's in general the idea of product as a service. It's the interest of the producer that it can be used as long and as less interfered as possible. This only makes sense if your focus is on quality. If your focus is on just selling stuff and have cheap materials, then maybe that's not good that you stay the owner of your materials. But if you are, you would think, I have such a high quality product I have produced, and then I just give it to someone else. That's stupid. Why not?
That's a very good example. Thank you.
And I think that's also one important thing to keep in mind. And I like that from Walter Stahel. He's basically the mastermind behind all the circular economy thinking. He started in the 70s and 80s with that. He said, for every product, you should think about, does it increase value or not? If it increases value, it's worthwhile for me to buy it or to have it. If it doesn't, then why should I have it? So that's more from the user perspective. Of course, let's say for an old timer, then maybe you would buy it and keep it. For a car which just loses value from every day, why should you buy a car which loses value? Doesn't make too much sense.
I think the younger generations can hardly envision how that feels, but back in time, I don't want to say how old I am. I remember also that those things like a washing machine, a car, a bike, any kind of machine was a kind of an investment, and it was kind of natural to think to think, first of all, that it will hold for very, very long time, if not forever. And secondly, the repair, thinking that at a point that it might need a repair was just much closer. I think today it's so weird. It makes so no sense, because the things are so cheap to repair. It's so much cheaper to buy, just to throw it away and buy things new. And I think this example shows also how much could be done, because if you repair and maintain that, on the one hand, you have to provide good quality products, like in this case of Rus. So you don't have too much maintain cost for your company, of course. But secondly, that you also create kind of expertise. We have so many young people who have to study things because we have too little jobs where you can be a crafty handyman. And I think it's on so many levels wrong what we created, what kind of peace we created in the last century. It's yeah, I really like the example a lot. Thank you.
And it's also that valuing. I mean, we so less value craftsmanship. It's coming more and more. You can see it with the beer, you can see it with other parts, and you can see, but on the other hand, you can see it also in the economy, because you don't find someone to do the work. You don't find someone to fix your TV or something, because they are all booked, they are all busy. It's hard to find people who build a house or something like that, because they say, come on, we've got so many work to do. Yeah, let's say in 3 months, maybe we have a slot when we can work with you. And that's quite an interesting perspective. So I think, yeah, really knowing how to work with things, really getting your hands dirty, even though that's absolutely not what I'm good in, but if you enjoy that, that's such a valuable skill, which you should really try out and improve every time you can. Because there will be a lot of jobs, and we will be moving away from a producing society to a caring society, I hope, at least. So, and caring means also to not just build things to throw them away, but to build things and to value that someone can fix it again, and that it's really maintained. So that's a bit the background. So what's needed for a circular design? It needs, and that's the chance also when you look at what kind of jobs there are, it needs the entire value chain. You need to bring all the people together. It's about collaboration. There is not, let's say, one company who can do it all. So you need to start from the design. You need to look at which materials do you use? What's the material production? So what's the material, let's say, how do I extract materials? And extracting can also mean how do I extract it from things which have already been built, so I can rebuild. The production itself should also be looking at renewable energies. How can you do the production in a way that you don't create waste, that you use things which can be reused again, and that you just produce what is really needed, because reuse is still one of the major strategies. You can have a look at the distribution. So how does it get to the person? And we all know now, let's say that also the inner cities are quite blocked if you have all the transporters, but if you would have the transport inner cities with a lot of more Lastenräder, that is the English word missing.
Bikes, a bike transport.
With a bike transport, yeah, with the cargo bikes. I think it is. So really there could be so many different ways of providing the services. And of course, we discussed the concept of the 15-minute city, so that you have in 15 minutes reach everything, 15 minutes walking distance reach everything you need for a good life. So that's also something where it needs solutions on distribution. For use and reuse, of course, you can have a different look, also how to redistribute things, to maintain, that's all the repair and refurbish and upgrade solutions, but then also how to bring things back, so that's the collection and always thinking about the next use. We use this value chain for a lot of workshop tools also, really to help people understand who are the different players, who are the stakeholders you need to find a solution. Because if you bring people from all these areas together and think about how would that be good, and the Circulab have done that with the city of Paris, for example, because they wanted to get rid of any single-use plastics, or they wanted to get the legacy of plastic down for the Olympic Games 2024, which now are not in Paris, but they still carried on with the project. So they brought together all the different stakeholders to define how do we want to, and not just what do we not want to have, but how do we want to have a service for gastronomy? How do we want to have a way on eating, drinking, and celebrating without being wasteful? Yeah, I think that's an important factor to look at what do you want to achieve and not what you don't want anymore. So that's always the good life, right? And that's how we, basically the rewords are quite typical for anything which has to do with, with a new way of working. So that's usually is the reduce, reuse, or refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, repair, refurbish, remanufacture, and all that stuff. We also like the rewords. We're looking a bit in a different perspective when we design or when we do things what is for us important. So we want to be regenerative, we want to regenerate, and we want to use resources with respect. And ideally, things can grow again also. Recreate means really to understand where are things not working and how can we do it, how can we provide it in a better way. Relocalize, and I think for the recreation, we all know where things are created in a way that they are not good. Just walking around, you can see all the cars, all the parking spaces, the soil, which is where you can't see soil, where you only see paved ways. So that's also the land use. So there's a lot to do. The important thing for us, and also when it comes to circularity, is about the best circularity is if the loops are very close. So we don't want to have loops all around the world, so that we, like now, send the plastic waste back to China, or they don't take it anymore, or to Vietnam, and then they maybe somehow do something about that, like for the oceans, which pick the stuff from the oceans and then send it again to the whole world. So that's surely not the best. So ideally you have small loops, and that means you need to have places where you can go to and where you can exchange, where you can work together. So that's more good neighborhoods also. And the connection, as I mentioned, locally and globally, we can bring people together. And the value, I think it's also something I mentioned. So really get back to valuing things, because if we value things, we don't throw them away easily. And when we buy them, we think about, do I really want to use it for quite some time, or do I maybe know that others will use it afterwards? So then I can still buy it and find a way on how others can have it afterwards. So that's very important. And also see the true costs. You mentioned that basically buying new is so much cheaper than repairing, and the same is for recycling. Why don't we use so much recycled material? Sometimes it's just because the prices of raw material, plastics is a typical example, are so cheap. So there it needs a change also in legislation to bring these solutions forward. So, of course, and when looking at jobs, at all these parts, you need people who are pushing into the right direction, who help circular economy to grow. And with our workshops and tools, we want to activate the people. We want to show what's possible. And that there are different solutions. So the circular tools we are using, you can use it in presence or online. It's all in Mural in the meantime. There are different languages. We have now the online tool also in German, and we have a workshop on the 5th of May, brand new. So if you want to join,
we should share the link to the workshop. Yeah, we will type that in the comments.
Yeah, it's a circular canvas workshop where basically we use that tool here, the canvas, which is already filled. So to give an idea on how to use that, it's like the business model canvas, but it's considering in addition also what are the impacts, or negative and positive impacts of the work, and also then trying to find solutions. If we did it in a different way, what would that mean? So how can we reduce negative impacts? How can we increase additional positive impacts? How can we reduce materials or resources which are not renewable and not regenerative? So that's the idea of that. So you can see here, there's a card lying around. So there we have some inspiration cards. And it's great because it's fun. It's like a game, and you try to pitch in the end also your ideas. And we've done it a couple of times, and it's always interesting that even you have the same scenario and the same type you're doing, you come up, or the members' ideas, participants come up with new ideas you haven't heard before. So creativity is enormous, and everyone brings creativity. And of course, sometimes the cards help to really have a different perspective. And there are some more tools to facilitate that. So the most important thing is it should be a fun exercise, not and of course, that is something we just discussed it this morning with a colleague from the UK. She said, if for her, when she was living in the UK, it was normal to have fun at work. That was part of work. When I look at Germany and Austria, this is not the most typical thing you relate to work, right? Work is something serious.
That's so true.
Fun.
That's not a wonderland, unfortunately, the working world in Germany, Austria, and I know also some other countries, but I don't want to blame anyone. It's the working world is for sure not a wonderland, but it could be, with a lot of joy, where we can inspire each other and really come up with new stuff. You are right.
Yeah, you can see companies where people have fun, where you see people with a shiny eyes, and they love working there, and the companies are successful. And not they are successful even though people have fun, but they are successful because people like working there, because they really bring in more ideas if they enjoy their working environment. But I don't know why it's so hard to understand that for older people like me, for example. Other people in my age, sometimes it seems they have really forgotten completely that they had their best ideas when they were a child, when there was no pressure and not someone pushing, hey, you need to have a good idea right now, but it was when you were sitting and walking around and enjoying life. So I have spoken too long. I have spoken longer than I wanted, so to maybe bring it together in the end. So really, when you are developing circular, and it's an important thing to think about, not just, what do I do with the waste in the end, but really how do I set up a process that the stuff I'm producing can be used on and on. And that is the quality. One thing is, I mentioned, quality is crucial. So you need to invest in quality, and you need to think about how can these qualitative high materials, products, components, whatever, who can use them afterwards, after the first use? Who is the best person to maintain the quality? Is it something I should keep control? Is it something partners? So I could have licensed partners who can work pretty well with the materials. So that could be something. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. if you don't care about quality, don't ever try to go circular, because you'll fail, because you'll end up with a lot of crap. And that's, of course, you don't want to get it back. So basically, then that's what you should ask any company. Would you love to get your stuff back? And then if they say yes, I would, then that's the first step to a good quality. This is thinking in systems. So there are multiple solutions. There's not the solution. So what's maybe, when I see for, let's say, plastics, of course, people always say plastics are bad, but if I have plastics in a clearly controlled environment and where I know that everything I put in, I get back, I keep control on it, and then I can recycle it or I can reuse it, why not? So that's surely a good solution. So I was in another country, let's not blame any country, on a workshop, and it was a closed area, so I needed to wear all the protection kit. And then they had a canteen, and in the canteen they had plastic forks and knives, and I thought, why that? I mean, it's so nobody can even walk out with a knife or a fork. Why can't you have quality stuff in here? Because you keep it under control. Why do you need to produce waste in such a way? It's always about what would be the impact, the positive impact, thinking about the positive impact. And I mentioned it, everyone can become creative if allowed to. So involve people, involve different perspectives, different mindsets. I had it with one customer where they are working in cradle to cradle, which means producing healthy materials, which can basically be reused easily. And she said, we did a workshop, and she said, oh, it would be great to have the people who are working in production with that, because I think they would bring in some totally different ideas. So why don't we ask them? Why don't you ask basically everyone who's somehow involved, and maybe also the people who are cleaning, because they would tell you, look, every time I'm cleaning, that stuff comes up. Why don't you do something with it? Or why don't you find out a better way to basically make my job redundant, or make my job not picking up screws or whatever is on the ground. And it's about collaboration. So really finding the partners, really interacting with others. So that's some ideas, and that's, I think, what I wanted to tell you.
Thank you very much, Andreas. Thank you for giving us the examples, and you can take out the screen share if you want. I am very, very happy about your explanation. I think it will be very useful for our trainees to understand that it doesn't need, they don't need to learn something new, but more reconnect with their heritage, with their skills, with their environment, with the people to come up with circular solutions. And I also liked a lot that you don't have to produce per se a product or service. You can also, the service or the circular, the design could be bringing things together and rethinking processes. I really like that a lot. I wanted to also highlight, you have such a rich history, which is, as you said, sometimes conflicting with the farming and the plastic. What would you recommend or advise young people who are graduating today from high school, don't know exactly what they want to do, but they know they have to do something in their lifetime to improve the world, so to have a pleasant life? What kind of advices can you give them? How can they find jobs or meaningful, fun jobs, working environments to embark their life?
Yeah, I think it's very important to ask yourself, what do I really want to do? What's my value? What do I want to achieve? And ask that also the companies living, how can, or you'll be working for, how can they provide you the space to learn? Of course, let's say every step in my career, and there were a bit more than I was showing, but every step in my career is something which provided value. It provided a way to develop further, because I learned something more. I found out what I don't like. I found out what I like. I found out what kind of people I like to work with, and I think it's a lot easier now for young people, because in my times when I was young, let's say, it wasn't so typical that you were changing jobs like I did. Yeah, of course, after 3 years, yeah, good time, and now let's move on and see something different. So it's quite normal to say we do something and then we are open to change. And if we like it, we don't need to change, because that's also something. It's not kind of you're obliged to change, but also to speak out and say, look, there is something which we could do in a better way, and promote these ideas. And if you, of course, notice that nobody is interested in it, or you don't get the support to follow it through, then find someone who likes your support and who is more open to your ideas.
I think that
so
was
there's not the right, I think that this always kind of, what is the right career, or if you do where you're really behind, you will find your way.
I think that was also clear in your explanation how you started to work with that. I think not always we have the luxury to start the job or the field or with the task which we like to do, but you invested also a lot in your personal life by volunteering and getting connected. And I think also for the trainees of our project, we have countries from the Balkans, from different areas, and I do understand that you don't have everywhere the same awareness and potentially also not the same possibilities. But I think what you said, that by volunteering, by connecting, by being in groups, by joining networks where you can think ahead and gain experience on other informal ways of working, I think this is very important. Take out, no matter how the conditions or the context of everyone is. I think there is, as you say, enough. There are enough possibilities to learn, to experience, to volunteer, and to bring things together. And I enjoyed also a lot that you emphasize how important it is to bring people together and to value people, because especially if we are coming from backgrounds where we have perhaps farmers or other people who used to live more circular or with low impact in the nature and so on. I think learning from those older generations perhaps is very important. I see so many beautiful projects coming out of traditional ways of doing things, but you can reuse this knowledge or this technique or for new problems which we created in the last century. I think it's so rich. Everyone has the access to those experiences of others in the tradition, in the culture, in the nature, also nature-based solutions. I think it is very inspiring what you said, to embrace what we have with us, what we have around us, and to mold it to something new or to address new problems with that. I wanted to also know, how do you find a project? Because your portfolio is so rich and so wide. And I think if you have any advices or recommendations for youngsters, maybe that would help to get them thinking on what they can do in their environment?
Yeah, there I think it's a lot about being open and networking, also meeting people, listening, finding out what are they doing, where do they need any support, what's driving them, how can you help them. That's a very crucial point. So I think all my jobs I got through networks, and be it that a friend of mine, for my first job, a friend of mine told me, oh, I've been there and they are quite friendly and nice people. So maybe you can also apply to that. You do similar, from your mindset it would work, and from your skills. So why don't you apply there? And that is something which has been like that all the way, be it from my voluntary work that I get to know people I've been working with afterwards, or being it from the professional work.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Andreas. It was very good dialogue, and I hope it's also very useful for our trainees. I would like to stay in touch with you, and yeah, you can drop messages in the comments function, and also everyone, you can connect with Andreas if you have questions, or you want to connect and learn, or maybe attend his workshops coming up. It was a pleasure to host you. I am very happy to have met you and to have talked to you. I wish you a beautiful season after this pandemic, so you can have more workshops in person, so you can get the touch with people again. If you have anything to add to that, now it's your time. I'm very happy, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you for that great discussion also, and for the space to bring across my ideas. Looking forward to seeing you or the people listening in one of our events. And if you need any idea on how to be more circular, just connect with us.
We will. Thank you very much. Have a nice afternoon, people, and talk to you next time. Bye-bye.